You scan your boarding pass. An officer steps forward. You have been randomly selected. Except that decision was not made at the checkpoint. It was made up to 72 hours before you set foot in the airport. Your name, your itinerary, even how you paid for your ticket, were quietly scored by a federal system most travelers have never heard of. So how does random screening actually decide who gets flagged? In November 2001, Congress passed the Aviation and Transportation Security Act, reshaping the way airports approached passenger screening. Before this law, private contractors handled security at most United States airports, applying the same procedures to every traveler. Walk through a metal detector, place your bag on the belt, and move along. The new statute replaced this uniform approach with a federal workforce and a mandate for layered security. By early 2002, tens of thousands of transportation security officers, now government employees, took over checkpoints nationwide. The law's core idea was simple. No single measure could guarantee safety, but combining multiple layers would make it much harder for threats to slip through. The Government Accountability Office described three main tiers: physical screening at the checkpoint, behavioral detection programs, and advanced technology like full-body scanners. Each layer was designed to catch what the others might miss, creating a web of protections that worked together rather than in isolation. This layered model also introduced the concept of risk tiers. Not every traveler would be treated the same. Instead, the system would focus resources on passengers assessed as higher risk, while maintaining a baseline level of screening for all. Former TSA Administrator Kip Hawley explained it this way: "We had to move from treating every passenger as an equal risk to focusing on those who, by data or behavior, warranted closer attention." By embedding risk assessment into the structure of airport security, the reforms after 2001 laid the groundwork for today's complex screening decisions, where a simple announcement at the gate is often the last step in a process that began days earlier, shaped by legislation and designed to adapt to a changing threat environment. Each time a ticket is booked, the airline collects a bundle of details: full name, date of birth, gender, and if available, passport number or a known traveler number. This information does not just sit in the reservation system. Up to 72 hours before departure, and sometimes sooner for last-minute bookings, the airline transmits these passenger records to the Secure Flight Center, a kind of digital nerve center run by the Transportation Security Administration. Inside this virtual control room, a matching engine quietly gets to work. It does not simply look for exact matches to names on a watch list. Instead, it uses a probabilistic algorithm built to account for misspellings, swapped first and last names, and even common date of birth errors. The system assigns a match score to each record, weighing how closely the information lines up with entries in the terrorist screening database and other federal lists. High scores can trigger a selectee or no-fly flag, while most travelers are cleared in seconds. The process is nearly invisible. For most, the result is a silent green light, but for a small percentage, a flag is quietly attached to their reservation. The system also factors in travel patterns, such as one-way international tickets or cash purchases, which can nudge the risk score higher. If a known traveler number or a redress number is present, the matching engine cross-references those as well, resolving many false positives before they ever reach the airport. Non-matches are purged from the system within days, while potential matches are stored longer, sometimes up to 7 years for unresolved cases. By the time a passenger arrives at the airport, the pre-screen center has already made its decision. The boarding pass carries the result, ready for checkpoint scanners to read, long before the traveler even steps into the security line. A boarding pass stamped SSSS signals a different path through airport security. Instead of joining the main line, the traveler is quietly diverted for secondary screening, a process set in motion the moment the barcode is scanned. The SSSS code is not random. It is a formal directive recognized instantly by the checkpoint system and rooted in federal operating procedures. Once flagged, an officer explains the need for extra screening and guides the traveler to a separate area. Here, carry-on bags are opened and checked by hand, sometimes with swabs for traces of explosives. An officer of the same gender conducts a thorough pat-down, following a set protocol. Shoes, belts, and jackets come off for closer inspection. Electronics and personal items are separated and examined individually. The officer may ask a few direct questions about travel plans or bag contents, but the focus is always on physical inspection, not interrogation. The entire process is designed to last no more than 15 to 20 minutes, a limit set by TSA guidelines and reinforced by court rulings that define the boundaries of an administrative search. If the screening stretches beyond that window, the officer must call a checkpoint supervisor who reviews the situation and decides if further steps are needed. Supervisors serve as the first point of escalation, ensuring the process stays both thorough and time-bound. Secondary screening is not punishment. It is the visible result of a risk-based system that flagged the traveler for closer review. Most leave with a simple nod and rejoin the terminal flow, a reminder that what feels random is actually the product of a structured, legally defined process. A traveler who signs up for TSA PreCheck or Global Entry steps into a different lane, one shaped by advanced vetting, not just luck at the checkpoint. Enrollment begins with a background check, fingerprinting, and a face-to-face interview. Applicants answer questions about their work, travel, and any past legal issues. Fingerprints are run through the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security databases. Only after clearing these checks do they receive a known traveler number KTN, which becomes their digital pass to expedited screening. When a flight is booked, entering the KTN links the reservation to the traveler's cleared status. The airline transmits this number with the rest of the passenger data to the secure flight system. The presence of a valid KTN signals the system to route the traveler into the low-risk tier, effectively bypassing the selectee algorithm unless a watchlist match occurs. For most PreCheck members, this means their boarding pass is coded for the expedited lane, no shoes off, no laptops out, and, in nearly every case, no SSSS stamp. The impact is measurable. TSA data shows that less than 0.2% of PreCheck members are selected for secondary screening, compared to 1 to 2% of the general population. This is not a guarantee, but the odds change dramatically. For frequent travelers, the difference is clear. While some may face repeated extra checks, those in trusted traveler programs are rarely flagged unless new information prompts a review. The system's flexibility is built in. If a PreCheck member's travel patterns or background change, or if their KTN is flagged, the expedited status can be suspended or revoked. But for the vast majority, the program offers a structured, predictable path through security, one that stands in sharp contrast to the idea of pure randomness. At the heart of the checkpoint, a different kind of screening unfolds, one that relies less on algorithms and more on human observation. Behavior detection officers receive 40 hours of classroom instruction before earning certification in the field. Their training covers nonverbal cues, nervous gestures, inconsistent answers, and signs of stress that might not register in a database. When a behavior detection officer notices something out of the ordinary, they log an alert into the system. This digital record can prompt a supervisor to assign enhanced screening, even if the traveler's paperwork appears routine. Every alert is tracked, forming part of a national incident database used for oversight and review. The program's supporters argue that this human layer adds flexibility, catching risks that technology might miss. Yet the approach is not without critics. As one Government Accountability Office analyst put it, validating whether these cues actually predict threats remains a challenge. The debate continues, but for now, behavior-based alerts remain a key and sometimes controversial part of the airport security web. Certain travel choices quietly increase the odds of extra screening. One-way international tickets, last-minute cash purchases, and bookings made through anonymized tools all raise statistical risk in the secure flight system. Irregular itineraries, like multiple short-haul legs or open-jaw trips, further complicate a traveler's profile. These variables don't guarantee selection, but they shift the odds. Still, a portion of travelers are flagged purely by a random draw, maintained as a deliberate safeguard. This element of chance isn't just for show. Courts have found that labeling some selections as random helps prevent discrimination claims and deters attempts to game the system. The word random remains, not because screening is left to luck, but because unpredictability is a core part of the security strategy. Today, airport security decisions rely on algorithms, not chance. As risk-based screening expands, understanding these systems empowers travelers to navigate scrutiny with fewer surprises. The reality is, your profile shapes your journey long before you arrive. In this system, knowledge, not luck, is your best companion. Thanks for watching.